and toddler behavior and temperament scale. She also coded and analyzed the parent-child interaction and attention span in children. She wrote protocols, papers, and manuals for the study. She had also been designated as a special educator from August 2004 to July 2010 at the British School at the Netherlands. She had conducted various workshops for teachers and parents to create awareness about topics related to children with special needs. She's got her accreditations as CIS evaluator. As a CIS accreditor, she has visited Dover Court International School in Singapore in November 2019 and another due in March 2020. In April 2018, she was also invited to speak at the 11th British Dyslexia Association International Conference at Telford, UK. The topic was Descriptive Analysis of Dyslexia in India. In August 2017, she got the MIE, that is Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert Badge. She's also got many articles published in renowned magazines, some of which include articles on simple ways parents and professionals can help ASD children, which was published in Autism Parenting Magazine, issue 77. Article on challenging behaviors published in IBO blog, articles on strategies to deal with ASD children, and articles like The Long Road to Inclusion, published in a leading UK magazine, Special Education Needs, SEN, January 2017. She's currently designated as the head of Additional Learning Support Department at Pathways School, Noida, which is an IB school. Ma'am, it is an honor and privilege for us to have you here with us today. I also welcome the teachers and my dear friends. I hope you have a good time here with us and we look forward to learn many new things today. Thank you, one and all, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It was a lovely, lovely and elaborate introduction. It's like my entire journey and my entire career. So it's a pleasure for me to come and talk to you, and something which has been very close to my heart because this is with which I started my career with, right? So I started with Bayley's and neonatal behavioral assessment. That was my first job. And the first things are always very special. So I'm going to introduce you to NBAS, which is the Neonatal Behavioral Assessment Scale, and the Bayley Scale of Infant Development. I want to keep it as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, just let me know. If you think I'm going very fast, just stop me. If you think I'm going slow, you'll get me to speed it out. But just feel free to ask as many questions as you want. And I would because I would share that's one of the drawbacks of being in a virtual session is I can't see if anybody has any questions. So if anybody can just alert me, there is a question or you have a question. So just let me know and I'll be happy to answer all of them. Also, I will on the link, I'm just going to on the chat, I'm just posting a link. There it is. So this is the feedback for the developmental assessment tools on Padlet. So it's very simple. In Padlet, if you just click on this link, you will be directed towards a screen which has got feedback for developmental assessment. Just click on the plus button, right? And just type it and publish it. So I think that should be easy. And if anybody is struggling with it, if you want, I can show you a demonstration. Have you all used Padlet ever before?
No, ma'am, we haven't, but we'll try, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am,
okay.
We'll try.
So I can just show you. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
Yeah, so this is the feedback. This is as simple as that. There's a plus button here right at the top. Even if there is, if you don't want to click, you can do double click here and you will be directed to this. So just write something here, whatever it is, and just put a publish here and it's published. Your names will be anonymous. So nobody is going to see your names, right? So feel free to write whatever you want to write, right? So I'm just deleting this. Okay. So now I'm going to direct you to the tool that I have developed. Can you see the screen, all of you?
Yes, ma'am, we can see your Teams page, but it's not showing us the screen that you're sharing presently.
Okay, I'm just taking a bit of a time. You will see a screen of Developmental Assessments 1. Can you see now?
No, ma'am, it's still the Teams page, ma'am.
Okay, I will again do it. Is it available now? Can you see it now? Because I've opened the tool.
Ma'am, it's still the Teams page only.
Okay, I'll just redo it because this is sometimes the problems that we face. Now?
Yes, ma'am, it's there.
Okay, so now we're going to start with the developmental assessment tool. So I'm Sonu Khosla, and you well know that. So today's session would be basically about neonatal behavioral assessment scale, which is by Dr. Terry Brazelton, which is also called as NBAS, and Bayley's scale of infant development, which is by Dr. Nancy Bayley, and is also known as BSID. So this is the photograph of Dr. T. Berry Brazelton, and he developed this tool with the notion that if we accept that the child or a neonate or a newborn is an active participant in early interaction, and careful assessment of an individual infant should help us to understand the infant side of the dialogue. Any professional who wants to support early attachment will find it useful to illuminate the nature and the capacities of the babies for the parents. Now, I was very, very fortunate and blessed that I could learn directly from the videos of Dr. Brazelton, which was way back about, say, 20, 25 years ago. But that is something which, and he was absolutely amazing with children. So that is what his theory was, and he developed this tool. So the neonatal behavioral assessment scale is the most comprehensive neurobehavioral assessment, which is available for newborn babies. It is strength-based. It has got an in-depth profile of an individual baby. It can be used both in clinical as well as research settings. So I used it basically in the research settings, and we had to practice a lot before we went on to this using of this tool, because it's basically to do with small children. And infants, okay, now the infants are social beings and they're ready to communicate. That's the key assumption of this. And the babies communicate through their behavior. And infants' communication is not random. Now, normally we think, there are small babies. I mean, what will they do? How do we know that they are going to respond or not respond? These kinds of things keep coming to our minds. But the fact is that children are very, very receptive. They are extremely receptive. Now I have really lost the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
So this is basically the notion behind the neonatal behavioral assessment scale. Now the age group it's from babies from birth to 2 months, premature babies from 35 weeks gestation, developmentally delayed babies. The purpose is that the newborn responds to his or new uterine environment, the newborn's contribution to the parent-infant relationship, and the newborn's individuality. And after having gone through this administration process, the training, and assessing a lot of neonates, you will be surprised how much a small baby, just born a few hours or a day old, can, sort of do a lot of interaction between the examiner as well as himself, as well as the parents. So the kit is very simple. It's a very small kit, and it has a torch, a bell, a rattle, which is rectangular in shape, and it is red in color. There's a bell, there is a ball, there's a manual, and there are scoring sheets. So it's a very, very small and a very handy kit that you have. Now, the items that are scoreable are the 53 scoreable items, which are either administered or they are observed. And I've written wherever it is observation is there and wherever it is administered. Later on, I'll tell you in detail about it. Now, for example, habituation, that is a sleep protection. This is basically to observe the sleep states of the children. You will find some babies who are very, very in deep sleep. So the eyes will be completely shut. And there are some babies where you will find, there is a rapid eye movement. So you will find the eyelids are moving. There are some babies who, literally open and the eyes and then close. So this is how we assess the habituation or the observation of children who are in a sleep states. Social interactive responses and capabilities, which is completely administered. Motor system, which is observation and administration. State organization and regulation, again, it is observation. Autonomic system is observation, and reflexes is administration. So in this, reflexes is something which I'm going to demonstrate, and you will see how much we can get out of the babies. Scoring is 28 behavioral items that we have. Each is scored on a 9-point scale. So every behavioral item will have 9-point scoring. And there is a definition for each of these 9 points, which I'm going to show you later. 1 is being the lowest and 9 being the highest. Then it also assesses the infant's neurological status on 20 items, which is on a 4-point scale. So 0 is the lowest there and 3 is the highest. So you score 0, 1, 2, 3. And each point has a scoring definition, like I told you. Now, these are the, this thing. Can you all see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So if I do a demonstration, will you be able to see me, or should I stop sharing the screen and then show you?
Either would do, ma'am.
Yeah, you can see me. You can, I'm going to use a little baby here also because I can't see myself, right? I'm going to, I have 2 boys and I tried searching for a doll in my house and I couldn't get one. So I've tried to take in this small showpiece. So I'm going to use this to demonstrate you about these behavioral items, because that's the fun part of it, right? Otherwise, theoretical, we can, read anywhere. Now, these are the behavioral items. All these items which are there here are scored from 1 to 9. And every 1 to 9 has got a series of definitions. So when you learn to administer this, first of all, you will have to, for about a month or so, the only thing that you need to do when you start doing this administration is to just hold babies, 1 or 2 day babies, right? So, and with various weights. So that is one of the parts of to begin it. Then secondly, you have to, the 2 people are administering it. One is doing the administration, another is scoring it. Because to learn those definitions, you need to practice, 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 practice. And the third part is when you start doing it individually. So it's a huge and a long process, but a very, very interesting process. So I'll show you I'll go through it and show you all of these. Now, if you see the screen, there is the green part is the administered part and the red part is the observation part. So the red part I will not be demonstrating because that is just to observe the child while you're doing the administration. But the green is all to do with your administration. So you have like response, decrement to light. So what we have is we have a small torch, right? And the baby is sleeping and we need to have the baby in an alert stage, in an awake stage in this. So we usually, when we used to go for a field work, we used to tell the parents or the mothers that please ensure that the child is awake when we come. So don't massage him, don't give him a nice hot bath, don't feed him, because after that the child sleeps like a log and we really can't elicit the responses. So the response decremented to light is you just take a torch and you just put it, the child is awake and you just put it on his eyes away at a distance. And then we record from 1 to 9, where is the scoring lies. Similarly, response decrement to rattle, we just move the rattle, which makes a noise. Response decrement to bell is we just ring the bell and see what is the child's response. Then response decrement to tactile stimulation of foot, we just tickle a child on the foot, right? And then we see what happens. What is the reaction? Is he immediately alert? Is he does it require 5 to 6 stimuli? Does it require 10 stimuli? Does it require 3 stimuli? Does it require 1 or 2 stimuli? According to that, we score the child. Then inanimate visual orientation. Now that I have put a picture so that it's very conveniently seen by all of you. So if you see how you're holding the baby, you're holding the baby like this. And there is a ball, right? This is visual orientation. Inanimate means non-living, right? So objects we'll use. So what you have the baby here. You move the ball here like this. So you will find the baby's eyes turns like this. You bring the ball back here. The baby starts looking at the ball straight. Then you bring the ball there. The baby will turn. The baby will not turn, the eyes will turn because baby can't turn. This is the doll is turning, but it's just the eyes which will roll. And then you bring on. So we really score accordingly. Some children just move 45 degrees. Some hardly move. Some actually move 180 degrees. They actually turn their eyes till here. They're able to hold it till here. So that gets a score of 9. Or some, depends upon how much they're looking and how much they can bring the eyes to one side as the ball is, how they can follow the ball is how the scoring is done. Inanimate auditory orientation is we just shake a rattle next to the ear at a distance, but next to the ear. We just shake the rattle like this and the baby turns. The eyes turns here or there, and how much is the turning is the scoring done accordingly. Then inanimate visual and auditory, we take a rattle, we just put it right on top. So this is visual as well and auditory, and we shake the rattle and we go like this. Right, we just go right there till here and the baby turns, the eyes turn, right? And then we bring the rattle back here and then we go back. So this is to do with the inanimate, with the objects. Similarly, we do orientation, animate visual. Now animate means we are instead of the objects, we are there. So when we are doing the visual, we look at the child, we just go like that. This is just visual. And very slowly you move. And the baby follows you. So how much the baby is following you is the scoring pattern going to come. Then in an orientation, animate auditory is when we speak, right? We just speak next to the ear like this, just like the rattle, we are there. So we can just keep talking to the baby. Wow, how are you? What are you doing? A nice smile, come on, have a look, turn your eyes, and you will find just following a voice, the baby eyes move this side as well as that side. So that is orientation, animate, auditory. Orientation, animate, visual and auditory is when we are looking and talking. So we are visual, our face, and auditory is a voice. And you speak in a very soft and a nice tone. You don't speak it very fast, but you just talk to the baby and you say, come on, follow me, nice, come on, you're doing well, good job. You go on saying like that, and you'll find the baby's eyes will be turning this side as well as this side. So this is the orientation. These are all the behavioral items that we score accordingly. Then pull to sit is, if the baby is in a lying position, we just, with the hands, you need a lot of practice for this. With the hands, we just pull the baby up, right? So how much the baby is able to sit upright, right? And sometimes if they're very, very weak babies, we try and give a finger support on the head, right? So that it doesn't lag, but nothing happens to the baby. But initially you feel very scared for this item because you find the head just lags, but the child can come up, right? So then how much the child puts in the effort is what we decide for rating accordingly. Now you can on this slide, you can see most of the items are red. That is basically we are trying and seeing the observation part of it, like self-quieting during the administration. If the baby cries, is he able to quieten himself, or does he need a lot of support, or do we have to give the child back to the mother to soothe? So accordingly, we score these items. Hand to mouth, how much times he takes his hand to his mouth, tremors, startles, lability of skin color. Lability of skin color would be how much skin color he changes during the administration. Some babies get red. Some babies, you know, they are normally pale and you find a change in the color. But we didn't notice much of this color on the Indian skin because our Indian skin definitely we don't see too much of changes. But in a white skin, you would see this item becomes very important. Smiles, motor maturity, peak of excitement, rapidity of build-up, irritability, lability of states, activity level. So these are all observation things that we have. Cuddliness. Now, cuddliness is a very nice one. So you just take the baby, you just put it on your shoulder like this, and you will find, you have to just put it close to your neck, and you will find the baby's head will turn towards your neck. So it will try and cuddle. So how intensive it is, how slow it is, how strong it is how we try and score the child. Defensive movements. This is also a very interesting one. So you take a small, very thin handkerchief, a very cotton handkerchief, and you put it on the forehead of the child. So you will find the child will just make some kind of movements of the hand to try and take that off. Some children don't do anything, so they get a low score. Some children just try and then forget it. They don't mind the cloth on their forehead. Some children actually take it out. So according to that, we do the scoring. So this is an example to show you the 9-point scoring, right? So this is, I have taken an example of response decrement to light, which was our first item. So the first scoring number 1 would be no diminution and high responses over 10 stimuli. It means we have 10 times put the light on the child's head and we did not find any response from the child. Startles delayed. Rest of responses still present, body movement, eye blinks, respiratory changes continue over 10 trials. So this is the second scoring. Third is no startles, other responses, including body movement, still present after 10 trials. No startles, body movement delayed. So you can see how, and you can see the 9th one is basically which shows body movements with some diminution and respiratory changes after. So even after 1 to 2 stimuli, you find the baby reacts. So that is a very, very active baby and a healthy baby, right? So the 9 would be the highest score. And normally you feel the lower the weight of the child, you will find the more the sluggishness in the children are there, in the neonates are there. So this is a 9-point scoring sample that you have. And for every item that I've talked to right now has a 9-point scoring and you have to score the child accordingly. Any questions so far?
No, ma'am.
All well?
I have a question.
Okay.
Ma'am, what does lability states mean?
Lability of states is like how the child goes from a crying to happy to different stages. I mean, you will have some children who are very fussy. The moment you pick them up, they start crying, right? The moment you give them to the mother, they stop it. So they are not able to, they go to the states very quickly. They quieten down very quickly. Then quickly they come to a crying stage. Then quickly they go back again to a crying stage. Some children are able to maintain, you know, they're able to maintain their state very well. And then they get into a crying stage. And then you will find 3 or 4 states in them. But there are some children who transition, just like we have an ADHD, the transition is very, very quick. So they're crying, they're irritable, they are vomiting, or, you know, all those kinds of things happens. Yes, children also, when we take them in a cuddling position, so we put an apron when we do the administration. So you will find that some of them even vomit because, you know, they've been stuffed with the food and they're stuffed with the milk before the session. So all those things also happen. So that is lability of states.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any question? Okay, so we'll go ahead. So this is the 9-point scoring. Okay. This is the sheet. This is the scoring sheet. I just scanned the copy and you can see this is how we score, right? So we have, this is the scoring sheet that we have. This is the behavior scoring sheet, which we just need to, one is there, we have the definitions there. This doesn't have the definition. So when you have had enough practice, this is the sheet that you use, because you don't have to then see, oh, what does response decrement to pinprick means? That is tactile stimulation. What does response decrement to bell means, right? So you just memorize it because you've practiced it so much, and then you just start scoring it on a sheet very quickly. Now is the reflexes. This is a very interesting one. So its score is 0 to 3. So 0 is again the lowest and 3 is the highest. So plantar grasp would be when you take a child's hand and you just put your finger here. You'll find child will close it. And this is, I'm talking a baby which is just born a few hours. So that's how they are responsive. So they will clasp, and how much is the claps is going to be the determining factor. So whether it is some just put it like that, some come here, and some actually hold your finger like that. Babinski, this is on the foot. So if you have the foot of the child, so imagine this is the child's foot, you just put your finger and you just do like that, and you find the toes open. So this is called Babinski. Ankle clonus. So if this is my foot, I just bend it slightly towards the side and leave it. So you find some children, when they come back normal. For some children, there is 1 or 2 tremors, whereas in some children, the tremors continue, right? So when you do like that and they keep continuing like that, so that is something which is a red flag, right? It could be developmentally delayed, there could be an issue, and that's how we screen the children. Rooting, you just go at the mouth and you just do like that. You see the child will move this thing. That's how he sucks, right? The moment the breast nipple comes close to the child's mouth, you find the child just starts sucking. Nobody teaches the child to do that, the neonate to do that. So that is rooting. Sucking is you take your little finger, put it in the mouth of the child and press on the top palate, right? And you will find some children, you put it here only and they take the whole finger in. They suck in. Your finger goes in without you wanting it, right? It just gets in. And some children take a lot of time, they don't react until you stimulate the palate on top. So, and then you will find the sucking. So you have to feel it, you know, how strong is the sucking. So sometimes it's slow, sometimes some children really suck. Like for them, you know, when some children hold this thing so tightly that you have to do the rooting to relieve your finger. And I've had many babies like that, you know, when you do rooting, then they open their mouth to go there and you relieve your finger. That sometimes the sucking is that strong. Glabella, you just have this as a forehead and you just tap here. So when you tap here, the child's eyes open widely. So that's called glabella. Passive movements, arms, passive movement, legs. So this is like the malish that we do in our Indian culture. So you just take, you lie the babies in a lying position. So you take the 2 arms, you do 1, 2, 3, and you leave. Now this is automatically, you find it springs back. Now how fast is the springing and how strong is the springing is the coding. So is the scoring. So if I demonstrate on this one, it springs back, right? So this is likely to get a 3. Right? But some children are very sluggish and you find the arms only remain that. Similarly, we do with the feet also. So feet, we do it like that, right? 1, 2, 3, and we leave it, right? 1, 2, 3, and we leave it. So that's the thing. Palmar grasp is the toe. So you just take the toe and you put it here and you find the toe fingers, we'll call it. Placing. You take a child, you take the neonate and you put him on the table on any hard surface. You will find the child will push back up. So that's called placing. Standing is we see how much the child is able to be in a standing position, right? Obviously holding the neonate. Walking is we lift him in the air, him or her in the air, and you will find they will make this kind of movement. This is called walking. And crawling also similarly. We put it on the table and we see if they make any crawling movement. It's a very slight movement. It will not be like an actual crawl. Incurvation, you take the baby, you flip him like that, and that's why it needs a lot of practice. And you rub your finger like this on the sides. You will find the hip will turn wherever you slide your finger. So if you do it over on this side, it is going to turn this side. So that is called incurvation. Tonic deviation of head and eyes is you just look into the child's eye and you just move like that without talking and the child's eyes will move. This is something like the response decrement. And you move like this and you see how much the child is able to move. Nystagmus, you hold the baby like this and you go round 2 rounds with the baby and then hold him still and look in the eyes. So some babies, when they take the round, the eyes will move like that, right? What is the abnormal thing is when you find the eyes are not moving in sync. One eye is moving that side, one eye is moving that side. So that is a red flag. Tonic neck reflex, the baby is in a lying position and you just turn the head. So his position will become like this. I have a picture, I will show you that in this. Moro reflex, you hold the baby like this and you dip the, not a big jerk, but you dip the neck. So the hands go up in the air like that. So that's called the Moro reflex. So if you do not find these reflexes in the children, there is a problem, right? And we need to then see what is wrong. So this is an example pictures which I'm showing is the rooting. Moro, I just wanted to show because it's sometimes difficult. The child just goes up. So some children just go straight up. Some children's hands are like this. Some children's hands are like this. So accordingly, you score it. Tonic reflex, you just seen when you turn the head this side, the position is like that. So when you do this side, the position is the opposite side. So this is the tonic neck reflex. And this is how is the scoring sheet. 0, 1, 2, 3. So you can put an X, which is like a response which is omitted, means the child didn't do anything, or we didn't do it because the child was crying a lot or was very stressed out, because children, neonates do get stressed out in the session as well. Someone who are very small for gestational age do get stressed out. Then the response is not elicited. We tried our best, but we could not get a response, a low response, a medium response, and a high response. So that is how we scored the this thing. Okay, so this is just the feedback. So I come to an end of Brazelton, and this is the feedback that you have for this thing. So if you want, I can take a 5-minute thing for you to fill the feedback, or if you want to do it at the end, if you have any questions before we start the another 2. How did you find it? Do you think it's easy? Is it interesting, or is it tough? Or you have any questions? What was my experience?
Ma'am, I feel that it is interesting, but it needs a lot of practice.
Yes.
Because we cannot score, give any score to the child. So it needs, attention to practice.
Yes, it requires a lot of practice, because you see, when you are when we did in the research project, the least weight baby that I've held till date was 1 kg, and it was just literally like skeleton, just bones that I was holding. So it was very scary for me, even after having so much of practice, because to turn that baby and doing all that was very, very tricky. So yes, you are absolutely right. It requires a lot of, that's why I said for the first month, all you're doing is just holding babies on one hand, right? So because you have to do this administration and to use the other hand. So, but you see, babies also are very active participants. It's not that you have to do. Babies also take the shape of your hand. The way you hold the hand, where you hold the babies also snuggle accordingly. So it does require a lot of practice, a lot of administration details, scoring. So don't try it with any newborn that you have seen, because it's, yes, Babinski and all are easy, where you don't have to lift the child, but it's important that you have enough practice and enough experience to do this. But it's an amazing tool when you do it. Anyone else with any questions?
Ma'am, what was your first experience? Like, how did you actually feel when you were conducting this test all alone, like without any assistance or without any help? How was it?
Yes. So yes, that is a good question, because obviously after doing intensive training and sending my videos to US for getting certification, okay, you can do this test. Still, it was like I'm alone, I have to do this and I have to score also. But you know what? When you have practiced so much, you remember the scores, right? So you know that the baby is doing very well and is likely to get a 3, 3, 3 in all the reflexes, except in one reflex where I find it is 2. So I used to have a color coded kind of a thing. So I used to put a red pencil, right? I used to just put little bit of these flashcards of these reflexes, and I used to just put a red pencil, because just when you have the baby, it just takes you a second to put the red pencil on that reflex. So that, and I would score later on. The sheet, I would never do it when I'm doing the administration. So that is how I practice. But then after that, it became inbuilt, just like driving, right? The first time when you're driving, you are a little cautious and then you feel a little scared, but then it becomes a reflex action for you, right? You can see the mirror, you can press the clutch, you can do the brakes, you can do the accelerator. It becomes a reflex action, right? So then it became easy. But yes, the first time I did a lot of preparation by putting all the flashcards on the table and putting some color pencils, which I had coded as, you know, low response or a high response or a good response. And there was a confusion. I would just put that pencil on that, and later on I used to score. So that was the experience. So should we go on to the next scale? Okay. This is Bayley's scale of infant development. This is also an amazing tool. It is an extensive formal developmental assessment tool for diagnosing developmental delays in early childhood. It takes about 30 to 70 minutes to complete the test. 30, I'm being very optimistic if the child is very cooperative. But usually it takes a long time to do this test. And this is basically from 0 to 42 months. This test is from 0 to 42 months. Like just about the child being born. So it is, but in the revised scales, you will find that it is also from 1 month they start doing this test. The purpose, so this is Nancy Bayley. The BSID is administered to determine the child's developmental functioning and plan management for kids with developmental delays. It helps in early identification of intellectual delay. It helps in the management and accommodation of child's learning needs. It assesses the domains of development, for example, cognitive delay. It helps researchers as a research tool and initiating early developmental intervention. And I think this is the only tool that we have for this age group, which is most comprehensive, is the Bayley's one. The kit, it has a manual, forms, a booklet for the motor response, questionnaires for social, emotional, adaptive behavior domain, caregiver reports, observation checklists, stimulus booklets, and a manipulative set. So I have a picture for you. It's a very, very big suitcase, right? They have shown a smaller one here. It's a huge suitcase with a lot of manipulators, with stimulus booklets. It's a very, very tedious kit to carry. But then, so that's why when we did the assessments, we used to call the children to the clinic. We never went to the homes. Brazelton, we did it in the homes. But this, we called the children to the clinic because it required so much of materials. So this is all what we have about with the materials and all. So you can see how exciting it is. And it is always, this tool is completely play-based. So you basically do this, it's like just like a play therapy. It's based on the play format. This is the form. It's not a very clear picture, but this is the best I could get. So this is a very complex form that you have. And this is how we do the scoring on this form. It has got, it's color coded, so it makes it very easy when you have to start, when you have to stop. Now, the subsets of BSID is, there is a cognitive scale, which measures the child's ability to engage in pretend play, attend to objects, look for object that has fallen. Language scale, which measures the ability to understand and use spoken language, label objects, recognize objects, name objects. Motor score, as you all know, is fine and gross motor. Social emotional is the child's ability to engage with others socially, self-calm, take part in age-appropriate play. Adaptive behavior scale is which measures a child's level of development related to everyday life, like following rules, cooperating, generally adapting. So adaptive behavior scale is what we ask the parent, right? How is the child doing? Does he, like when he's 2.5 or something, how is he doing? Does he cooperate? Does he get upset? How does he console himself? How does he distract himself? How is he able to calm himself down? So these are the reporting questions that you have. But the cognitive, language, the motor is something which we administer. So the scoring in this is pretty easy. It's either NA, which is like, in spite of our best efforts, the child does not do the task, or a non-credit where he has not done it as per the definition. Again, there is a definition for every item. Credit if the child has done it. So the examiner rates the child's performance on each task, right? So how it works in Bayley's is that for every motor scale, cognitive scale and the language scale, there is a month given. Say it is from 0 to 2 months, then it is from 3 to 5 months, then it is from 6 to 9 months, then it is from 10 to 12 months, 13 to 15 months, like that it is rated. And then there is a list of items that you need to do. And then you have to score accordingly. So based on what the child has done, the raw scores, based on the credits, we calculate only the credits and give a raw score. We convert this raw score into a standard score, which is then we compare it on the manual, which is standardized, and we see where the children lie. Now, the basal and ceiling criteria is, for example, we have a scale of, say, 4 to 6 months, right? So if the child has done 10 items together, right, then we say he's already passed. So we'll go on to the next scale. We won't do the rest of the item. Just like saying, if a child can walk, if we find the child is entering the clinic walking, then we will not do standing for him, no? Because we know standing is already there. It is already a given because he can walk. So then we will do the 10 consecutive items from the walking stage and score accordingly. Similarly, for the motor, we have to, we get a mental scale and as well as a motor scale. And we define them as a mental development index and a psychomotor development index. And if we find the 10 consecutive items in the child has not passed, then we go to a lower scale. So for example, if we have a child, the mother says he is 9 months. So we start from 9 to 12 months group. But we find when we're doing 9 to 12 months group, we are finding the child is not able to do right from the beginning. He's not been able to do the first 5-6 items. So then we go back to 6 to 8 months scale, right? So we don't carry on with the 9 to 12 because the child is not achieved a basal there. So we go back to the lower one. But if the child has achieved quickly, then we go on to the next scale. So that's a ceiling. Ceiling is going ahead, basal is going below. This is an example to show you. For example, 6 months, you will have a child plays with a single object. So what the examiner does is he just plays a single object in front of the child, right? And leaves it. No instructions are given. For every item in this, there is an instruction how you have to administer it, how you have to do it, what is the response the child gives, and how you have to score it. So the child will just bang it or play it or put it in the mouth, do something with it. So that's 6 months, so he gets a credit. 9 months is relational acts object, like placing spoon. So we will just say, we'll just give him a cup and spoon, and we'll find a lot of children will pick up the spoon and put it in the cup. Or placing lid on the pot, right? We just give a little pot, which is again a manipulative material. So you give it and you find the child will do it. Some will not do it. Some will start mouthing it. So they don't get a score if they start mouthing it. But if they place it, they get a credit. 2 years is like we just give a child a cup, right? And normally at 2 years, you will find, this is so interesting, all children who are not developmentally delayed or are at par, you will take the cup and start drinking because they think there's something in the cup. 36 months, symbolic play, like we will have, we have a telephone in the Bayley sketch. So we just give the telephone and you'll find the children will will put the telephone near their ear. So that means it's a symbolic play. So they get a credit, and some don't do anything. So then they don't get a credit. Similarly, for a language, I'm just taking one example to show the language. It's like vocabulary, like we will have number of pictures given to them. They will name the pictures, they will identify the pictures, or we will say pronouns and prepositions. We will just say, we'll give a cup and we will give a small bunny. We have a small bunny in Bailey's. Put the bunny on the cup. Put the bunny under the cup. Put the bunny next to the cup. So they have, when they're doing all this and they do it, they get a credit. If they don't do it, they don't get a credit. So these are some of the examples of receptive communication. Now I've taken an example of 12 to 24 months to explain you more. For example, you have placing a spoon in the cup, putting a lid. 2 years, it's the same thing. So search. Now this information processing is interesting here. That child searches for an object that has been completely hidden from a view. So normally what we do is we just show a bunny, right? And we put it behind us. So you will find some children will actually get down from their mother's lap and come behind us to search the bunny. Some children will just not react. Some children will just peep like that. So accordingly, they get the scores. Or you find by 2 years, the child is able to find a hidden toy even after it has been displaced from the original point. This is a very interesting one. So you have 2 cups and you put a bunny under 1 cup, right? So you show the child, you put the bunny and you cover it with the cups. And you ask the child, where is the bunny? The child will point towards A. And then you put the bunny under B and you put the cups on top and say, where is the bunny? The child will say B. But the more intensive, more as you go ahead in age, is when we put the bunny under B and we displace the cups and we ask, where is the bunny? So by 2 years, the child should be able to understand the displacement and find the bunny here and not here, where it was kept in the original place. So this is some of the ways how information processing is also assessed. So these are some of the examples of 12 to 24 months, responding to words, phrases, receptive vocabulary of 50 words, comprehension without contextual cues. This is motor development. Now, even in Bayley's, you also have a ladder, right? We also have a ladder which comes in the Bayley's. So creeps upstairs, walks, makes lines with paper on crayon. 1.5 to 2 years is runs, kicks a ball, builds a tower of 6 cubes. So these are all different ways. I just taken some samples to show you what comes under these items. These are all listed for you. All you have to do is do it. Turn pages, kicking ball, attempting to self-dress, builds tower of 6 cubes, runs, sits, and there's a chair also. So he goes and sits on the chair or doesn't sit on the chair. So these are some of the ways of seeing it. The descriptive qualifications in this is if the child is getting a standard score of 130 and above is very superior, 120, 129 is superior, 110, 119 is high average, 90 to 109 is average, 80 to 89 is low average, 70 to 79 is borderline, 69 and below is extremely low. So that is how you identify where the child is and how the child goes ahead. Any questions so far? Because this brings us to the end of the, so I'm now available for any questions that you have. Or was it too difficult to understand? Because you see, when you see, if I happen to ever go in Delhi, because I have my recording tapes as well of these, the entire administration, so that looks more interesting to see. But if you have any questions, then let me know. We can go into the question answer sessions. This is my, if you have any other further questions which you may remember, sonupathways@gmail.com is my email. I'm on Instagram, which is my page. I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn as well. So please feel free to reach out. And feedback, again, I put a slide so that you can just ask questions, fill the feedback, anything else that you want.
Ma'am, in your experience, what were some difficulties or challenges that you faced?
In neonatal or in BSID? Or in both?
In both, in both.
In both. In neonatal, the biggest challenge was the sleeping of the babies. We had to really, so how we did the study is we used to follow the pregnant mothers, right? This was a longitudinal studies and the sample size was 1,500. So 1,500 children we have assessed apart from the practice. Normally when the child is born, in Indian custom, you've seen, they just massage the baby, feed, give him a bath and make him sleep. And if the child is in that sleepy state, it was very difficult to keep the child awake or make the child, come into alert stage because there are certain items which we can't do. So we had to literally send a field worker before, say, don't massage the child. We will come at 9 o'clock sharp, but after the assessment only do it. So that is one thing which was a challenge there, to have the babies in awake stage. Second challenge was when we used to do those eye contact, right? Culturally, many mothers felt that nazar lag jayegi. आप उसके आंखों में इतना ऐसे देखोगे तो उसको नजर लग जाएगी. So they were very, very this thing. आप ये क्या कर रहे हो? Some thought it is some jadoo tona. So we had to literally, explain them, tell them why we are doing it, because we did it in slums, right? I worked in Okhla slums in Govindpuri, if anyone of you know Delhi, or Sangam Vihar. So this was basically a study in with small for gestational age babies. So it was quite a challenge to tell them, because when we showed that ball, so they thought that, this is very tricky and what are they doing with my child? And then their mothers were very scared when we used to do that incurvation, when we used to flip the baby over in one hand, kuch ho jayega, aap kya kar rahe ho, so that kind of a thing. So it was very important to give that confidence to the parent that this is something for their benefit, this thing. And then as the word spread around, they were very willing to do it. BSID also, the same challenges were there, but I think in BSID we had less challenges compared to neonatal, because children were, it was play, so mothers actually enjoyed a lot. Many mothers used to go off to sleep, because in our clinic we had a nice fan, cooler, everything. So they used to just go off to sleep, that now 1 hour she's babysitting the child, she's playing with the child. So in BSID we had that issue, but yes, stranger anxiety creeps in. Your separation anxiety creeps in in this scale. So we had a lot of issues separating the child from the mother, right? And the mothers used to speak, he can do it, why isn't he doing it? So those were the challenges in BSID, but yes, more in neonatal compared to BSID. Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm sure it must have been an enlightening experience.
Oh, it was amazing. It was just an amazing experience, which is very difficult to forget, and very nice to see what all you can do with the children. Any other questions anybody has?
In the neonatal, what if the baby doesn't respond to your stimulus properly, ma'am?
That's why they get a score of low. They get a low score. They get a 0. Their reflexes, if they don't respond, or in the behavior item, they get a low score. So when we tally it, it's very interesting. When you sit down with the scoring sheet, then we had a data entry, we did all that. And you find that if the child, and we are doing it separately, but when you see it, you find a child who scored low in behavioral will also score low in reflexes. So then there is a red flag right there for that child. So there were items where the child did not respond. There were items where the child responded. So based on that scoring, we would do it. And sometimes it used to happen in spite of our best efforts. The child was mostly crying during a session. So then we schedule another session, because that's not okay for the child to, score him in a very crying stage when he has to be he's not able to quieten himself at all. So then we used to schedule another we used to do it for 3 more trials. And if all the 3 trials, the child only used to cry, then we used to end it. Then we just said the child was not scorable. But very rarely did we get that not scoring.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, great.
Ma'am, if the child gets a low score, so do you also tell some strategies to parents also so they can work upon?
Yes. So if in neonatal, obviously, if the child gets very low scores and something, we definitely tell them to see. We also had a pediatrician, so this was a whole team. We had doctors, we had field workers, we had nutritionists, we had supervisors, we had child development professionals. So this was a team of this thing. Yes, then we would send the children to AIMS. We would send the children, we would do a follow-up. We would not leave them there. And yes, we would say, the child is red flagged and we need to find out more about it. And the early intervention, we used to give them strategies for even BSID or for neonatal. Yeah, we did that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Most welcome.
I wanted to ask, do you generally have to be good with babies and infants to carry out the test? Do you need to know anything extra, like calming down the baby or anything like that, which you had to do?
See, holding the babies is one thing, which you have to be very comfortable, because if you are jerky, then the mother gets more, if you are not confident in doing it, then the mother gets more anxious. So that is one thing which you have to be confident. And if you're not confident, I would say don't pick up a baby, because you may just sprain him or do something like pull to sit. In fact, after I trained a lot of people for this, they still could not do pull to sit because they were very scared. They said, I don't want to try it, should anything happen. So I used to do pull to sit mostly because there is a head lag. right? And they come, but they come up. It's not that you're doing it. So that something is calming the baby. If you try, if you have any neonates, you just start talking to them in the eye and you just go like this, you will see how quickly they calm down. So if you try it's all about practice, how much you practice, and that's how it comes about it. So nothing that yes, you should like babies and you should be not oversensitive to crying because they cry a lot and they cry really loudly. So you have to be a little, patient with that, because I feel some people get very patient, he's crying a lot and they get very nervous if the baby cries. So the baby goes on crying and, they're trying their best and the baby is not crying. So they get very nervous. Oh my God, she's not keeping. What is the mother thinking? What am I doing? What is happening? So they get very, very nervous themselves. And the more they get nervous, the baby gets, because you transmit that anxiety to kids. So you have to be calm. And you find sometimes when we are also soothing the baby, suppose we have a neonate who's really crying. So we start with, that orientation, animate, visual. We start with that. So we start talking, yeah, how are you? And you find the baby is howling, crying, but we're talking, and you find within 2-3 minutes, the baby quietens down. And then we start our assessment. So you have to be confident and patient, a lot of patience, even in BSID, because they will not do whatever you're wanting to do. So those things are there.
Okay, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, that's a good question which has come. Tamima. Okay, how different your experience was with your own children? Okay, this is a very interesting question. So when I started doing this, I was unmarried. So when I got married and had my children, my nephews, everybody around, I just did this test out, everybody. So, I have everybody assessed in my family on both BSID as well as neonatal. And it was a great experience because with your own children, you're 10 times more confident. But at the same time, you find that you just do it and, his hip is not turned as much. Then you're also, what's wrong? His hip is not turned. It should be turning. No, it should be turning. It's not swinging as much. It should be swinging. There are so many babies which it swung very nicely. In this, it is just not swinging. So then I was like, okay, let me do it again. So, but, so that was little anxiety there, or, pull to sit is very weak. Why is it so weak? So you had those kinds of things as well. But everybody in my family, after this, who gave birth and I came in contact with them, I did this testing, neonatal as well as BSID. I did a lot. So it was a great experience to do it with your own children as well.
Ma'am, I wanted to know, if you find something, some issues, if there's no movement or something like that, do you refer to a physiotherapist or any other specialized people, or how do you do the thing if it's not up to the mark?
Yes, in BSID, definitely there was an intervention plan also that we had in place. But for neonatal, obviously we would send them to a pediatrician first to basically get a overview, and because you can't do much in the neonatal stage. But we used to counsel the parent very clearly that as the child grows up, there are likely to be delays, there are likely to be issues. So you would need this. But BSID, it was a very clear, because we had a pact with AIMS. And AIMS, there is a huge center for special needs. So, and they used to get it on priority. So, because they were referred by us. So they were sent for physiotherapy, for occupational therapy, sensory therapy, for special needs remedial, if we found one. So, yeah, but in neonatal, you can only red flag. And then because we were following those kids till they were about 42 months. So we had a huge study, right? We followed the children, pregnant mothers, till the children were 42 months. So in between, we were also giving the intervention. So we had a complete intervention plan.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Sure.
So like right now I'm doing my bachelor's. So if we have to specialize in this field, so what would the path be? And is it something we can work even after bachelor's, like internships or with you or something like that?
See, for this, I was very lucky when this project came. I interviewed for this project and I got it, and I learned it through this project. I learned it on the job, right? Because there was a project like this. But yes, I have this kit also, but it's lying in Delhi. I have the manual, I have the whole kit and all. But if you are interested in understanding and knowing it, we just need children, right? So that's the only challenge that we have. But and you know, I forgot to tell you one thing. But when we started doing this administering, we also went to hospitals for training, right, to understand how different children look like, right, which are the different kinds of kids with, you know, problems and issues and medical history. So we actually went on observing that. Yes, definitely, I've not thought about any internship or anything, but you're more than welcome to do it. And they do have training programs for this, but it's mostly abroad. Not many people are trained in this area because there are not enough professionals doing it. So you may have it, but it may turn out to be very expensive. I know in UK they do it, but if you can do it, but it has to, you know, go with what you want to do with. Are you planning to set up a clinic? Are you planning to get into a research project? Are you planning to get into a hospital? So your career path should be very clear of what you're planning to do, so that this may add on. For me, it was on the job, and because it was a Hopkins project, when I also went for this job, I was interviewed and I was told, you can't do this job. You won't be able to do this job. That's what the feedback I got. I said, you know, just try me. I'll just give me. So you know what my boss told me? He told the supervisor, isko pura slum mein ek hafta subah se sham chalwao. Because that's how difficult this job was. And it was very difficult for me because you contracted scabies. There was terrible stink. There was very difficult. I couldn't eat food for a few days because of the, you know, you do it. And you were walking in July, June. So I got into this job in July, and Delhi humidity, you was sweating. I also gave up in between. I said, I can't do this. I mean, I have to walk throughout this thing. But as and when I started getting the training and things like that, I said, you know, there's nothing else that I want to do except this. So that's how it started for me. So there was a project where they had all the things tied up with US from Hopkins, people coming to train us and everything. So I got that training. So if anything like this comes, definitely, I can tell you that projects are still on, but maybe they don't do so much of Bayley's. And now if you ask me, I cannot work in slums anymore. It's very difficult. But for you, if you get any projects like this, don't think about how difficult it is, because this is the time to work hard. Later on, you won't be able to because you're young. You don't have any responsibilities. Give it a shot. And I used to stay in Noida, and I used to travel till Ames every day, which is kilometers away, 50 kilometers away. So that's the kind of a thing. But take a challenging and a tough job in the beginning, because that's what, if I had missed it, a lot of people came from my college and they gave up. We can't do this job. So that's what it is. So you should.
Thank you so much.
I'm more than happy to help you. But not thought of anything. But yes, demonstration. I would love to do it again.
Yes, ma'am. We'll think about it. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? Any questions?
Ma'am, there is a question for you asked by Chavi Arora. Then how would you communicate with child parents when there are some delays or red flags? Is it difficult to share with them?
It is, you know, because you see like in Pathways Order, which is a very posh school, they're also counseling the parents and telling the parents that your child is special needs was a nightmare. And, you know, you had to go through a lot of counseling. You know, parents were more a problem than the kids. There's dyslexia and ADHD, and we're talking about dyslexia and ADHD, which is the IQ is very much intact. So it is a challenge, it's a taboo. And it becomes more of a problem when you are in the slum areas where the education is also not there of parents. You know, in Pathways, the parents are all very educated, still they don't understand. So it was definitely a challenge, and they would always, you know, come back and say, Mera bacha pagal thori na hai. Because for them, it is only about pagal, you know, he's mad. So then you have to counsel them. But I have always seen when you counsel, that denial, it goes to the whole DABDA process, right? But they come to that acceptance stage. And when they realize it, and when they're getting the intervention, where they're getting to know how it is, they do fall in. Some do, and some just feel, you know, we'll manage it. We don't need any help. We'll show to some Baba or somebody else like that and get him cured. So we had all kinds of experiences, very, very emotional experiences when we went into those slum areas, into those juggies, and we found children were hungry. Sometimes we could not assess children because they were hungry, because there was no milk in the house. The mother had no milk in her breasts. The father was an alcoholic. There is no money in the house. The child was crying because of hunger, and that is why we could not assess the child. So then we started, the milk supply, some glucose biscuits to the children. So we started all this in the project. So we did a lot of social also. So yeah, it was challenging to address a few parents.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions?
But you should just take the opportunity whenever you go to, if you get a chance to visit the hospitals. Like we had attachment with Lok Naik LNJPN hospital in Delhi. So we used to go regularly. It's hard work, right? No, not during the COVID times, but if you get the opportunities, take the plunge into hard and difficult areas at the beginning, because then you will, when at an age where you can't. Not if you ask me now, I can't do this. I can't get into slum. I can sit in a clinic and do BSID and neonatal, but I cannot get into the slums now anymore. So, which I could do when I was very young, fresh out of college. So take the plunge of hard, challenging jobs in the beginning, which sets your career path. Had I not done this, I would have missed a golden opportunity.
Ma'am, there is another question. Why NBAS is not used in India in the hospitals?
Good question. One, NBA's training is not there, like I said. Hardly, they still use ABGA, which is nothing, which gives you nothing about the child. They just, and the nurses do it. So there is not much of data that you get for children. Lack of training. People don't know that there is a tool called NBS. It's just, I would say, ignorance. And they don't want to invest. The hospitals don't want to invest in it, because if they get a person trained for it, obviously they have to pay the person, they have to get into it. And it's a very nice tool to do it. And you find in UK, most of they are doing it. In US, they are doing it. But unfortunately, in India, we're still stuck to ABGA, which is just a 5-minute evaluation, which gives you nothing about the child. Tell you this is a very detailed one. It takes time. And that's why I think it's they don't know, or they don't want to invest. So we used it for research. But we had a very good data and research, and this has been, and if you pick up any research paper, if you have anything to do with neonatal, you will have Brazelton as a tool, because it's that good a tool. It's lovely, because how much information you get about the child in this, a neonate. And plus, parents also feel, why do it? What's the need for doing it? They will get a lot of medical tests done, like thyroid test. They do it for a 2-day baby. There's no need for it till you see a baby which is pale. They do for them, but they will never do it for, they will not invest in all this. I think they should, but it's just ignorance.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, another question which is asked by Rida. Can you please elaborate on the various intervention programs you planned during your work experience?
Okay. So in only for this project, or otherwise in general, in schools as well?
Ma'am, in general, ma'am.
Okay, so in general, the intervention is like in Pathways Noida. I have left Pathways Noida. I'm in Bangalore now, so I am with Shrishti, working now with Shrishti. So in Pathways, we had an entire department of ALS with about, I think there are about 15 teachers working with me. So we had the whole intervention is an IB school. So we had like PYP, MYP, and TP. So we had a proper ALS program with IEPs, with review, with collaboration, with sensitization, peer learning, everything, intervention programs for this thing. And, we had occupational therapists, speech therapists, everything on board. So that is how the intervention plan and the whole department works for it. And it is an inclusive, completely inclusive school where we don't have a special class for children with special needs. They sit in the mainstream classes and the mainstream teachers are trained. So all these goes. So the intervention plan consists of mainstream teachers training. It consists of differentiation in the classrooms. It consists of parent collaboration, the multidisciplinary team, the IEPs, the collaboration between the special educators and the mainstream teachers. So all that consists of the intervention plans, followed by IEP reviews, etc. For NBS and BSID, for NBS, because we were following these children, we also did the intervention plan of giving a remedial if we found a child with, obviously when the child got a diagnosis, right? Because it's too early to get a diagnosis unless the child is really developmentally delayed. So we had contacts like in AIMS, I told you, with physiotherapists, with the OTs, and they used to give the intervention as a part of our project.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Any other questions? Also, I would request everyone to fill the forms being posted in the chat box. Any questions anyone wants to ask?
Ma'am, personally, which scale would you like? Which scale, according to you, has a better result, or can be used more popularly in order to get the proper results, or according to you, like in between the two? Since you've told that APGAR in India is used, it is not that elaborate scale as NBAS is.
Yes.
But still it's being used in India. Like
Yeah.
NBAS is not there prominent in India. We don't, at least we don't see it as of now. So if you being, for example, if you being in a place where you are given a chance to, give provide hospitals with either of the two scales, which scale would you prefer?
See, the both scales, the age groups are very different, right? So I would recommend both. Like for NBS, it is only for 0 to 2 months, right? A few hours after the baby is born, because by 2 months, your reflexes and response decrement all becomes null and void. Right. So I would really say the neonatal is very good to assess the initial, few hours you have that. Bayley's also is an overlap, right? Bayley's is also an overlap. When you have 0 months, you will also see some of things, but neonatal gives you a more sort of detailed data about the child's neurological functioning. Right. So that is something which is there. BSID, you can always use it. It has the same things. It will just show that the child puts his legs in the air. The items are mostly overlap. BSID basically starts for 6 months. It's more effective to see if there's a developmental delay or not. Because if you find that the child is not responding, we've had children who have just not responded at all to any of the items. And there's such attractive elements that you have. Now you will see it when you put a nice bunny and you put a nice doll in front of the child. Children will grab it, right? If they because that's what they want to explore. They'll just go look, see what it is about. If the child is doing nothing, there is something wrong, isn't it? So both of these tools are very important, and because the age groups are so different. So I would recommend both of them because it gives you so much of history about the child, and you don't have any more tools as elaborate in this age group so far. We don't have, mostly you have dyslexia or ADHD diagnosis and all, which starts happening more by you are 7 years of age, or say the mild ones, the mild cases that you have. So both have its own value and very play-based.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're most welcome.
Yes, anyone else wants to ask something? Ma'am, I hope they have cleared all their doubts, and I would like to thank you for such an interactive session, and it was really interesting, ma'am. And now I would like to hand over it to Drishika. Drishika, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Aditi. Gratitude is a spark that lights a fire of joy in our soul,
Good morning to everyone present today. I am glad to have been given the honor to propose the vote of thanks on this special occasion. On behalf of Mount Carmel College and the entire management, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our guest speaker, Mrs. Sonu Khosla, who, despite her busy schedule, accepted our invite and graced this occasion. Ma'am, your eminent presence and inspiring words has made this virtual meet a memorable one. We thank you for guiding us with your knowledge and insight. Your thoughts on developmental assessment tests has enlightened our minds and increased our limited knowledge in this field. Today, we had an opportunity to hear your experience and thoughts which will surely encourage us in our future. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to extend my deepest sense of appreciation and gratitude to our principal, Dr. Sister Arpana, who provided us with this opportunity. Without her support, this meet wouldn't have been possible. I would like to thank our loving and dynamic head of the department, Dr. Sujata Gupta Kedar, for her constant support and remarkable guidance. We are thankful for our subject teachers, for their enthusiasm, encouragement, and for helping us make this event a success. I would like to thank everyone who has contributed to make this meet an unforgettable one. A sincere thanks to everyone present here for making the time to be with us today and being such lovely audience, thereby making this event a great success. Thank you one and all.
Well, thank you so much. I really had a lovely time interacting with all of you. Lovely questions. And this is, as I told you in the beginning, very close to my heart. This my first job, my first experience, and I can still remember that much I can tell you, that much of practice has happened that I could just, when I was doing the presentation, a lot of cherished memories. I was very nostalgic, and a lot of cherished memories came back. I went down the memory lane, and because the practice was so intense, I could just jot down and know all the reflexes and how you can do it and stuff. So lovely meeting all of you, and it was a great pleasure. Thank you for having
so much, Sonu. Thank you. This is Dr.
Thank you,
Sujata.
ma'am.
Thank you so much. In this short notice, you have accepted our invite. I'm really, really grateful to you. Thank you so, so much.
You're most welcome.
And I'll get back to you very soon.
Sure, sure. It'll be nice if you can give me the recording as well, because it's always good to,
I will. For sure, I'll give you the recording.
So in case there are any questions, and if I get to, some of the question you have, and I find some lead in it, some project is coming by or something is happening, because I'm still in touch with this organization. So in case something comes, I'll be happy to, reflect on the questions and then give a more insight.
That would be nice. For sure, I'll share the recording with you.
Sure.
And I'll surely look forward to more such interactions and I think it is very much good for the students, because students in India are really not getting that exposure in these subjects and fields. So this was really a wonderful experience, I'm sure, for them. And thank you so, so much.
Most welcome. Yeah, lovely. Okay, then. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.
Yeah,
Thank you
bye.
so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.